This video is an art along where I am making an art journal page for a swap that I'm in. The theme is paper dolls. In the first 12 minutes of the video, I will show you the finished journal page. If you are only interested in seeing the completed page, you can end the video at that point. I will be continuing on and showing how I made that page. The video is quite long, so I will be dividing it into two parts. Hi, this is the show and tell of my art along for my art journal page called Paper Dolls. So I'm going to put this right at the beginning of my video. This is my finished page, but before I go into that, I want to talk about these tags. In the process of doing my art journal page, I had used some black gesso and I had some left over, so I gessoed the background of my tags. And then I also used modeling paste, and I had noticed on the rim of my, inside rim of my jar that it was starting to get thicker and gooier, and I wanted to use that up before it got so bad that I couldn't use it. So I found some Tim Holtz grunge, where the little punch outs on this grunge board, and I'd saved the backgrounds after I punched out like the keys and the little shapes, the flourishes. And so I used those as a stencil, and I used that modeling paste to make some dimensional shapes on my tags, and I thought they turned out really well. I really like this one. Now I have not colored the modeling paste or not, but this is kind of like a sidebar to my paper doll page. I ended up with 3 tags that I wasn't planning, and I will put in here, before this segment, I will put in here a note of where that starts to happen if you want to see me do that, and then you can just slide your little timer bar over to there if you want to. But I just thought I'd show those. Now what I want to do is talk about, this is the completed paper doll page. I put a lot of work into it. I used several new techniques for this page. First of all, the person that I am doing it for, I'm in a journal page swap at creativeartjournaling.com, and the person that I am doing this for, I've already received a page from them, so I just thought that I would return some of the technique that they used on the page that I sent to them. Namely being, they did their page on cardboard instead of just watercolor paper or heavy mixed media paper. So I found some cardboard, some corrugated cardboard, and this is a little bit, well, no, I guess it is about the same size. But so that was a new technique for me, and then I cut niches in there. You'll see the whole process if you watch the process part of this video. You'll see where I cut my niches. And then I have a book jacket from the cover from a Tasha Tudor book, and I used that as my base image. And I was originally going to put the quote that paper dolls never grow old, or I can't remember the exact quote, but I didn't like the word old, even though, you know, Tasha Tudor is representing an older person working with paper dolls. So I ended up putting paper dolls timeless play. And then I have Tasha Tudor here. She is quilting by a fireside, but the way she's holding her needles, it looks like she could be cutting some paper dolls. So I cut some little paper dolls and put there, and then put some up here. Now I'm going to take the elastic. This elastic band is kind of the Delusions journal style. but I needed something to keep these paper dolls from, they're accordion style. I cut them from a photocopy of a pre-1924, I believe it was 1906, Needlecraft magazine that had illustrations, fashion illustrations for young girls and young ladies. So that's where I got that print, and then I made an accordion style. I used the shape and then cut paper dolls from there out of cardstock paper. And on this one I kind of sketched little images. I don't know how well you can see them, but then I decorated it up with some not graphic 45, 7 Gypsies tape, the DEFG and the XYZ, and then I reinforced the folds so over time, if these things get bent back and forth, that they'll stand some of the usage. And then on this one, I did not draw on the back of it, but I did reinforce it. But she folds out too. So it's sort of an interactive page, and the person who sent me the page where they did on corrugated cardboard had cut niches in there, so I cut the niches for my paper dolls. I used several new techniques on this page. First of all, the cardboard, using the modeling paste, I textured it with some canvas, plastic canvas. So if you could feel it, I don't know how well you can see it, but if you could feel it, it's very textured on here. I used a copper StazOn re-inker to color my words, and my words are stenciled with modeling paste through the background of the cardboard sheet of some alphabet stickers. Well, they were chipboard alphabets, and after I punched them out, I just had the background, and so I did that. And what else did the glaze. The glazing on here, I used a Liquitex glazing medium to give it this very glossy coat. So that was a new technique for me too. Now I'm going to, then the other thing is, I'm using this style of holding, because I need something to hold these paper dolls in there. And you know how the Delusions Creative Art Journal has that elastic band, or even like the Moleskine journals had the elastic band. Well, that's what I'm using to, the same technique to hold these paper dolls in place. I don't imagine it, if she puts this in her journal, she will not be taking them out very often, and it just kind of holds them in place. Then I have the little paper dolls hanging here and here, and it says, Paper Dolls, Timeless Play. Oh, that quote that I was originally going to put on here was, you're never too old for paper dolls. But I wanted to get away from the word, you're never, I mean, the verbiage of using old on my page. So I like the phrase timeless play. So I use some Ranger, Tim Holtz Ranger little labels, alphabet labels up here, and spelled out the word timeless play. And then on the back, I used the same 7 Gypsies tape to reinforce these. I did a tag back here that was more or less a tag that was holding paint that I did not use. So I just put it on I used the medium resist, a matte medium. I was gluing down my paper dolls and I had more medium than I needed, so I made a resist and inked it, and then put little paper dolls there, and then I have my documentation. This is a tag, and then there's another little strip of cut out paper dolls, and then the back is just some stenciling and some distressing along the edges. So this is my finished page. I hope that the person who receives it in the swap likes it, because I've certainly put a lot of work into it this weekend. I learned a lot from doing it, and I'm very, I wanted to tell you too, I have this little charm I went garage sailing and I got this little charm for $1, little dolly charm. I'm just going to leave her right there. Don't know if you can see her very well. Right up here in the corner. A little... Ha! I just never know how much you can see. She's right up there. That's really actually my birthstone, my August birthstone. But I decided to put it on this page because it just fits. And I have StazOn re-inker along the edges of the niche there and kind of bringing out the background kind of over the rough part of the modeling paste around there. So I was very happy how this turned out, and I hope that my swap partner likes it. I'm going to get it out into the mail to her Monday. Today's Saturday, so it's all done. I got some glare coming off. Let's see, I'm going to turn my light here, see if that helps any at all. Probably not, probably made it worse. When I'm doing my videos, I just have the hardest time knowing what you can see and what you can't see. There, I guess you can see that pretty good. I'll just hold it here for a minute so you can look at it. Now the rest of this video is going to be an art along where you can see where I actually make this paper doll. So if you don't want to watch any more of this, now would be a good time to stop because it does get quite long, but I'm not ready to edit all that out yet. So I like to watch people on YouTube do their art. I learn a lot by just watching them. Sometimes I'll just scoot along if, you know, if they're just doing something I'm not interested in. I'll just move my little timers bar forward until I get to a point to where I think that I want to watch again, and I do, so you're more than welcome to do that. So if you enjoyed this, I hope you subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be doing more art videos in the future. If you just wanted to see the journal page, the video can be stopped at this point. The rest of the video is a process video showing how I made the journal page and discussing it in detail. Okay, I'm getting ready to start my project here, and I'm discussing that I'm going to use a cardboard base, and I show how my template fits on the base. And I'm going to use a Tasha Tudor book, and I kind of flipped through the book here, so I decided not to use any images in the book, but to rather go through and use the book jacket as cover. And I'm saying that I'll be using that other image on the back for another project. So I start trimming up, figuring out where my template will fit on the book jacket cover, and start trimming it off here. You can see I'm trimming it so that it will be 8 by 10 is the size of my book jacket. And the reason that I'm using a cardboard base is because I'm doing this page for a lady who has already sent me a journal page in this swap, and she used a cardboard base, so I'm going to use that same technique on the page that I am sending to her. I eventually end up cutting niches in that page. Here I'm choosing papers for an accordion fold. I end up going with that scrapbook paper that you're seeing here and picking out some different washi tapes that I have to use. And I'm choosing the paper dolls that I'm going to use. I end up using this little doll with the little girl with the red dress for doll, and then one of the other prettier ladies there. Look at some country French paper, decide not to use that. So I'm getting ready to collage it down, saying, okay, I'm going to gesso out the letters. I don't need the letters. I only want the image. Then I put everything aside and try a little gesso on the back, and that's not what I want, so I wipe it off and actually start collaging it down with a Liquitex gel matte medium. And you'll see here where I put medium on both sides, and I have some left over, and I do not like wasting what I have left over, so I get out an extra tag, and I use my leftover gel medium on that tag so that I have a resist. I'm going to use that tag on the back, and I have used that matte medium as a gel resist. There, I'm doing it right there. You'll see that later. And I'm attaching down the edges, making sure everything is securely clodged down. And then I get out my black gesso and I gesso out the lettering on the book jacket cover because I only want the image to show. I think that works really well. And I have leftover black gesso. That black gesso goes a long way. So I break out 3 tags, and of course I have enough gesso left over to do the backgrounds on 3 tags, and I set those aside to dry, and then I will continue on with my project. Okay, in this next segment I've already cut out my niches. I did that offline, and I tore the corrugated part off of the niches so they'll kind of form a background, and they'll actually be kind of like a little 3-dimensional effect there. I'm showing that there. But the actual image of the background will show through the niche. Niche, N-I-C-H-E. There I'm gluing them down with some weld bond. The paper is very heavy. You'll see here later where I don't like how the matte medium holds them down. I go to some weld bond glue. And here I'm looking for my brayer. I can't find my brayer. I was using it for some jelly printing, and it's off on another table. So I just decided to use my hands and make sure everything's secured down. And naturally it's not. So I try some more glue on there. Not really happy with how the medium holds it down. So I reached for some of my weld bond glue, and that I'm very happy with that. It holds everything very secure for me, and it dries clear, and I'm very happy with it. I kind of spread it on the rest of the page because I'm getting ready to attach the base of the journal page down where I already cut out the niches. I use that weld bond glue on the back of the corrugated cardboard, and I am attaching it to a 140-pound watercolor base. And I'm doing that right there, and everything comes together, and I have 2 little 3-dimensional niches where I'm going to put my paper dolls. It does not matter that the white lines are showing through there because I'll be painting that and covering it up. Here I'm just making sure that the base is securely attached to the background paper. Clean off my weld bond glue bottle, put everything away so that I don't spill it. Kind of clean off my work area. Very happy with what's going on. These are the paper dolls that I cut offline, and I've already made the accordion folds. I trimmed them to make like the little pretty lady that's going to fit in that niche, and the little girl in the red dress who's going to fit into that niche. And then I show you here where I'm going to put the title, which will be Paper Dolls. I was going to say Paper Dolls, You're Never Too Old for Paper Dolls. I decide against that and put Paper Dolls Timeless Play, showing that an older person can enjoy paper dolls too. Okay, I had to do some work offline because I used modeling paste, and I used it through a plastic canvas. I'm very happy with the texture. I also cut out my paper dolls and cut out an accordion fold for them. Here you can see the texture of the modeling paste on that page. I'm going to be putting the word paper dolls with modeling paste on there for the title. I don't do that right away, but I'm figuring out where I want it to go, and I'm showing you how the paper dolls will open up and close up. I'm very happy with how those turned out. I had to cut them offline though because I have to get my nose up to them. Now I'm getting out some of my ink tints. I'm going to use some water and my ink tints to color the white of that modeling paste. I'm happy with the coverage, but I really would like it a little bit darker. It's not quite dark enough for me. It ends up that I like how it does show through. I later go and use some black gesso, and the ink tints will kind of show through there in a way. Here I'm getting out my black gesso. I don't have much left in there, but it's enough. So kind of trying to mix some ink tints with my black gesso, and I'm painting the borders of the page and painting around the niches and just painting that entire textured image of the where I put down the modeling paste. You can see there where the ink tints, the blue of the ink tints kind of shows through. I'm happy with that. I might have covered that up a bit more as I work on it, but I think some of it actually does show through the finished piece. Here I'm painting around the niches, just kind of finishing up the page. Very, very happy with what's happening with my page so far. Finishing up painting around the borders. And got to get all of them there. So I have enough black gesso left that I get out that tag that has the resist, and you can see there where I'm using what's left on my craft sheet to create a tag that I'm going to use on the back of this page, and I use some more ink tints on that. I'm very happy with how that's turned out because I'll be using that tag later, and you'll see that later on in the video. So I finished that up and put it aside to dry, and then I decide that I'm going to work on the back of this, and I get out some dilutions and some ink tints there. Some ink tints I'm just putting sort of a grayish brown background on the back of the page, and then I get out a stencil that I've really cut this stencil myself. I cut it out of well, there I'm using blue dilutions to spray through the, it's a what they use to make stained glass windows. It's kind of like a mylar. And after I spray, I put what's left on the stencil in my figurine book and create a just kind of like a page that I'm going to use later in my figurine book. So I decide that that image on the back is too strong and I want to mute it down, so I get out some white gesso and kind of white gesso around the entire page. Well, I think I end up doing the entire page later. I'm only doing the edges right here. Okay, now I'm getting ready to check out my page and see where the little dolls fit, and I'm getting ready to do the title, which is going to read Paper Dolls. So I'm using this punch out, the background of a punched out letter as a stencil, and I'm using some copper re-inker from StazOn. You'll see me use that later. So here I'm just fitting the modeling paste through that stencil to form the letters. And actually the first word, which will be paper for paper dolls, goes very well, except I have a little bit of trouble with the E. It's when I start to do the word dolls that it doesn't go so well, and I just have to stop and turn off the video and do it offline, because well, first of all, I need the word paper. I need that modeling paste to dry before I continue on, and I can manipulate it better when I can get my nose up to it, and I just kind of holding those centers there. I'm not really taping them down. If I tape them down, I would probably have better luck, but I'm a little bit impatient when it comes to that. So here I'm getting ready to do the E, and you can see that center of that E is just a little bit smaller. I get it on there, and then I bump it or move it or something, and I have to take it off and redo it. But it turns out, here's where I bump it. And I kind of smoosh it up a little, and then I put the little center back in there and kind of try to hold it with I have a bamboo skewer there that I'm just kind of trying to hold it down, and put some more modeling paste in there, and that works for it. So then I just have the letter R left. Off to the side there, I decide I was going to put the phrase "You're never too old for paper dolls," but it will not fit on that entire page, and I don't like the word old. I don't want that on my page. So I decide to go with the phrase "timeless play," and I'll be putting that off to the right of that word paper. So now I'm getting ready to do the word dolls, and you'll see here where I'm struggling with it. First of all, I'm struggling with not having that top part of my stencil smoosh into my wet modeling paste to the word model, so I kind of have to hold it up, and when I do that, the little center part of the D moves, and I eventually just get disgusted and say, well, I'm going to have to do this offline. So I kind of clean everything up here and look at everything. I'm happy with things as they are right now. Okay, so now I have both words of my title done, Paper Dolls, and I've allowed it to have time to dry. I'm very happy with what's turned out. But I have these 3 black tags, and I have this modeling paste where, as I've used it over time, what's left on my stick, I kind of scrape it off on the rim of the jar, and that modeling paste kind of builds up underneath of the rim, and I don't like to use it on my pages, but I want to use it before it completely dries out. So I get out these 3 tags that I use my extra black gesso on, and I start using that modeling paste before it totally dries out, because no waste. You know, you want to use it while it's still good, but it's not really what you want to use on your page. So you can see I'm using some I think I end up using keys. I use those 2 keys on there. I'm very happy with how it turns out. All I have to do is just kind of take that partially dried out, starting to dry out extra modeling paste that's built up under the rim of the jar and use it on my tags. I'm pretty happy with those. I clean off, this is grunge board from Tim Holtz, where I punched out the embellishments. Now here are some hinges, ornate hinges. Now I still have more modeling paste that I can use through there, so I do another tag, and I'm really happy with how this one turns out. I haven't painted them yet, but after they've dried, I have them in my stash, and they'll be ready for another project. I'm in a lot of tag swaps, and one will come up. And you see I'm using a little vintage tag background of an embellishment that came with some vintage embellishments, and that really works well to scrape it down with the inside of the stencil there. It's very stiff. Now, didn't that turn out nice? Now I'm cleaning off the background there because I'll be using that again. And then I go to the 3rd tag, and I'm doing flourishes here, and here again I'm very happy with how it turns out. I'm pretty much using everything that's built up under the rim there, so the next time I use the modeling paste, I'll be using the good stuff down at the bottom, and I have not wasted what is built up under the rim. So I'm just making sure that I use it all and that I get a good coating on it. You'll see where I pull it off here. I'm very happy with how that turned out. That's very pretty. I'll be using that in a project for sure. So now I'm putting my modeling paste away and cleaning off my stencils. I call them stencils. You clean up the modeling paste off of there as good as you can, because that stuff dries stiff. But you want it clean for the next project. Okay, now I'm getting ready to color the word paper dolls, and I'm going to use the ring inker that comes with the metallic copper stays on. I squirt some out on the page there and start to paint the letter P, and I'm going, well, this is a pretty red transparency color, and then I realized that I didn't shake up the stays on, so after I shake it up a little, it's more of a opaque copper color, which is exactly what I want. And so here I start painting the letters, and I'm very happy with how this metallic, it's a copper stays on, and I'm using the re-inker that comes in the package. You buy the ink pad and the re-inker, and it covers this modeling paste really well. And I'm reaching in there and getting all sides of the letters. They're dimensional because I used a stencil and modeling paste to write the words. And I'm finding with my brush I have more control, and also it's easier for me to get in between the letters And when I use the sponge, you'll see here later on, I use the sponge and the copper station to highlight the texture of the background, and it does some shredding of my sponge. So I'm just touching up the word paper. Very happy with how it's turning out, and starting on the word dolls. Now when I start painting the word dolls, I'm not as concerned if that copper goes into the background. I'll touch that word up as I go. And sometimes as you see me working here, you'll see me pull the page kind of out of frame. I need to get it up to my nose to see what's happening. And but I get it back into frame later so you can see what's going on. And as I said, I'm not as concerned if I get paint on the background, and I do that a lot with the word dolls, but I come back later with some black gesso and touch all that area up so that the word stands out a lot more. And you can do that with art journaling, because there are no mistakes and there are no messes. Well, there may be some messes, but they're not mistakes. Well, they may be mistakes, but they're happy mistakes. And sometimes that's how you learn, and some very nice things can happen. So I finished painting the word paper dolls. Now I'm going to use what I have left on there, and here's where I start highlighting the texture that was created by that modeling paste through the plastic canvas. And you can see that really well after you highlight it. It kind of does some shredding of my sponge, but that really doesn't matter too much. Now I start working it around the edges of my page. Very happy with how this page is turning out so far. It's going exactly where I had envisioned it to. In fact, there's only one part of this page that I'm not happy with, and you'll hear me talk about that later on in the page. It was the only solution that I could think of at the time. I'm sure that there are better solutions. So now I'm just taking what's left on that sponge and kind of distressing the edges and coloring the edges up. Now I'm going to get out some black gesso. And here is where, I'm using more of that copper stays on. I'm highlighting the edges of the niches. And that's why I said earlier on that it doesn't matter if white showed through, because that would all be painted, and you can see that by now it has been. And I'm just bordering those niches where the paper dolls will fit in. Very happy with how that's turning out. Now I'm doing more of the borders around my page. I really want that copper to bring out the page, and I can do that by applying it to all of the edges and to the sides of the page. This is a very dimensional page. Now I'm getting ready to do the bottom of it. Just using up everything I have there on my craft sheet. I'm very happy with how far this stays on goes. Now I'm getting ready to get out the black gesso. And I'm going to paint around those letters of the word dolls, because it's kind of messy and I want them to stand out a little bit more. And I do that by applying black gesso around each of the letters. And that will bring them back. I think I touch up the word paper too. Now I had wanted to get the whole entire phrase, "You're never too old for paper dolls," but you could see that would never fit onto my page using the size of those letters. So I'm very happy with how it turns out. You'll see later on in the video where I put the phrase "timeless play" on there. I don't think I have it on there yet. I can't see for my hands in the way. I used some little Tim Holtz mini sticker letters and it fits on there very nice, up there right to the right of the word paper. So just touching it up, giving it a little paint over some of the little areas where I want it to be darker with the black gesso. Clean off my area, and there it is to this point, and there's my back. I'm getting ready to work on the back now. I'm going to work on the tag. Okay, so now I'm just kind of additioning things on my page. I'm saying this is where I'm going to put the words Timeless Play. In fact, I've already attached them down there. I cut out some little paper dolls actually out of book text paper, and I'm going to attach them. I wanted to make it look like Tasha Tudor is, instead of quilting, it'll look like she's cutting out paper dolls. So I kind of changed the theme of what she's doing, and keeping the theme of my page that paper dolls are for people of all ages. And I really like how those little paper dolls is kind of streamed down the side of that quilt, and I use them as a banner across the top of the page. Now I'm using a glazing medium, a Liquitex gloss glazing medium, and I'm using that across the entire front of the page. That will give my entire page a nice shiny finish, and it will seal everything in there. So while that is drying, I am going to work on the back of the page, and here I'm cutting out some more a little banner of paper dolls, kind of just demonstrating how I do that. I accordion fold a book text page and draw a simple shape of a little paper doll figure there and cut them out, and you want them to be attached holding hands as you fan out the page. And I tear off 2 of them, and I'm going to use 2 of them on the tag and the rest of them up above the tag on the back of the page. So now I'm distressing the tag some more. I really want it to be dark so those little paper dolls will stand out. I'm trying to decide which side of the tag that I'm going to use. You can see how the gel medium that I'd spread across there resists my stain. That's exactly what I want to happen. I'm drying it off. I decide to go with the side of the tag that has the least stained area on there so that I can write information on there. I'm using a ruler and a biggie black Faber-Castell pen. I like to border my tags and my pages that way, for that matter. It just kind of brings them out a little bit more. So now I'm using some stain on those little paper dolls, and I tear the head off of one of them. But I save it, and when I glue him down with my gel medium, I reattach his head. You cannot have a headless paper doll. That just will not work. So there it goes. Here I'm staining them up a little bit more, outlining the 2 little paper doll figures with my biggie Faber-Castell pen too, because I want them to stand out on the tag. Now I'm attaching them down with some gel medium. Very happy with that. Set it aside to dry, and I have more glazing medium left, so I use it on another tag. And here I'm doing both sides of my tag and set it aside to dry. More glazing medium. These are just prepping spare tags that I have. I'll use them for another project. So now I'm working on the back again here, and I'm distressing the edges, just kind of making the whole edges of the whole side stand out, and using glazing medium on it to give it a nice shiny surface and to seal it. Of course, with extra glazing medium, I have a lot of glazed tags, and I do use those. You let the glaze dry on the tag, and then when you apply color to it, where you put the glaze resists. So now I'm working on the little cutouts of the paper dolls, a little banner, and those will be applied to the back of my page. Okay, now you can see my entire page is dry and everything's sealed. I'm happy with how the little paper dolls are showing up, like she's cutting them, and you can see I've attached the words timeless play. So now I'm kind of additioning my paper dolls into the niches, and I decided I'm going to attach them down at this point. I show you how they will fold out with the accordion fold. Now I know that these niches are going to get folded back and forth several times, and this is just scrapbook cardstock paper, and I want them to be a little bit more secure between the paper dolls so that they won't rip up. The only thing holding them together is that little area at the elbows. So I put some 7 Gypsies tape in there, some of my beloved tape that I'm running out of. I wish they'd make more of it. And here I'm doing the same thing with the little girl in the red dress. I had sketched some faces in there. I'm not entirely happy with them, but I decided not to work with them anymore, that I would just leave them as they were because they're going to be folded up on the inside anyway. So I secure her at the elbows, and then I tape her down. Now I think this is a good time to talk about the part of the page that I'm not entirely happy with. And after I get them secured down, I find as I turn the page and flip it over and everything that the accordion folds tend to open up on me when I'm not expecting them to, and I have to think of a way to secure those down. And I eventually arrive at a solution using an elastic band, but I'm not entirely happy with that. Okay, now I'm going to work on the tag on the back, and here are my little banner paper dolls, decorative elements, and I'm going to glue my little banner of paper dolls to the back of the page. I'm prepping them there, getting them ready, collaging them down. Just adds a little touch to the back to say this is the back of your paper doll page. And I'm finding some ribbon to attach. I'm going to attach a ribbon through the top of the tag there. I look through my stash and find this black ribbon. It's kind of got a twisted braid to it. It's a little bulky, but it works. And I tie it in there and trim it off. Pretty happy with it. But I'm not happy with, and you'll see this eventually, I taped the tag down on one side. I'm thinking I want it to flip open so you can see both sides of the tag, even though I'm not putting any writing on the back. But I eventually decide it flips open too much, and you'll see where I tape the inside of the tag on all sides and just secure it to the back of the page. Here I am outlining the little paper dolls a little bit more. I really want them to stand out because, after all, this is a paper doll page. You know, we used to cut these paper dolls out of paper all the time when we were kids. It's just kind of a playful element to the page. Drying off the glaze on the back so that I can outline those. See how that flipped open there when I turned the page? And here I'm saying it flips open too much for me, and I think, well, maybe I can take a paper clip and secure it somehow. And no, that isn't quite working for me. It would have worked if I would have thought of it sooner. So I'm outlining the little banner of paper dolls. I think it's dry enough that I can use my felt Faber-Castell Biggie black pen on it, which works really well. It brings them out. It just adds a playful element to the back of the page. After all, this is the back of a paper doll page. Now here's where I'm not happy with how the tag is flipping open. In other instances, I think it would work, but not on this. I want it to be secure on all sides, so I use the score tape and attach it down on all sides so that it becomes a part of the back of the page. Secure it down. Yep, flipped open for me again. I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can do that, and I just haven't arrived at a good solution yet. In fact, I think if you want to see the solution that I used, you'll have to look at the introduction video again. See, it flipped open for me again. I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'm just kind of reviewing the whole page, opening it up. This is where I'm going to put my documentation, and just kind of showing off the page, saying I think I'm at a finishing point. I'm happy with everything that's turned out, except for I don't like how the dolls flip open there. But I resolved that one. So thank you for watching. If you've stuck with me this long, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be doing more of them in the future.